Is it time for recess yet? I'm so glad you found time to join us here on the Child Care Director's Chair, where Erica Sacoccio shares her best practices that she's refined through her passion of directing childcare centers over the last 23 years. From parenting interaction, systems to save you time, money, and stress, to profitability. She shares it all from the Child Care Director's Chair.
Hey guys, it's Erica with the Child Care Director's Chair podcast. We're so excited you are here with us today. What if I told you that you can help shape the future of early childhood education and make a lasting impact for children that you teach every day? In today's episode, we're going to take a deep dive into why child care directors and teachers must get involved in advocacy and how to use your voices to make real change. Today, we're going to speak with two leaders from Virginia AEYC about their groundbreaking work, success stories, and practical steps for educators to take action and ensure a brighter future for younger learners. So you don't want to miss that episode. And guess what? That episode is right now. So welcome to the show, Kristi and Kim.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, thank you. So I typically I don't have a lot of folks on the show at the same time. So what I'll do, I think, to make it easier is I'll call out on each of you to answer a question. So that way you'll know who to take the lead. If there's something that you want to defer to somebody and you think the other person is better to answer it, you can go ahead and just do that and just say, I'm going to let Kristi take that. All right. So before we hop in, Kristi, tell folks a little bit about yourself, how you ended up in this work.
Sure. My name is Dr. Kristi Brown, and I am the president of the Virginia Association for the Education of Young Children. By day, I'm an infant and toddler coach, infant toddler specialist, and I get to train and support infant and toddler educators in the classroom. I also serve as a consultant and an adjunct professor as well. And I came into this work actually through the work at the university. Just became a member and really found my place with the other members in the leadership.
And Kim?
Yeah, so I am Kim Thomason, and I am the program manager for early childhood education initiatives here at Virginia Tech. And we are just really working to support our employees and students and the communities in which we live and serve with access to quality early care and education for all. So with that land grant mission, we do a lot of work to support our educators and our early care and education programs across the New River Valley as well as the Commonwealth. And I too, like Kristi, do some consulting and adjunct teaching.
Okay. Well, lots of knowledge on this podcast today. Can you tell me a little bit, Kim, tell me a little bit about the mission and core values of your organization and how they guide the work that you're doing in early childhood education?
Okay, sure. I'll jump us off and then I'll pass it to Kristi to give the fine details as a president. I think really from the perspective of a member and a long-term leader in this group, one of the things that I think really is at the root of the work we do is that support piece and that resource piece. So we spend a lot of time working to build community within the early childhood education field, as well as to resource them in many and varied ways, through professional development, again, through our local resources and state resources, and just trying to be up to date on all the things that are happening within the field. Kristi?
Yeah, thank you, Kim. And so just to bounce off of Kim's response there, so our mission is to serve, support, and advocate for all who care for and educate young children. And the way we do that is within our sort of leadership roles, we have circles. So we have a professional development and conference circle that kind of sort of does just that, professional development and provides conferences. We have a public policy circle that is sort of the leader of our advocacy work. We have an equity circle that focuses on equity and accessibility to high quality care for young children, but also to high quality professional development for our educators as well. And then we also have a membership circle, which I think any AEYC needs to recruit, retain, and incentivize, individuals in the field to recognize their professionalism and to join this professional organization.
Yeah, that's my circle. So here in Rhode Island, I was on the board for the last 6 years, and I love the membership piece. I love people, so, just getting to connect with the actual members was always one of my favorite things. So, let's talk a little bit about advocacy. What are some of the key advocacy and public policy initiatives that you are currently working on, and how those efforts benefit early childhood educators?
Well, I'll kind of take that one just to recap. We actually just had two really phenomenal events here in Virginia. The first was we call it Capital Steps, and we collaborate with other organizations. One is called Virginia Promise Partnership. The other one's called Save the Children Action Network. And we combine all of our efforts. We all have very similar missions, but sort of in different ways that we work to advocate for accessibility and affordability.
Hey, it's Erica here, and I've got something super exciting to share with you. If you're in the world of early childhood education, you cannot miss the Early Childhood Empowerment Conference. And I'm not just saying that. Trust me, this is where the magic happens. Over the course of 3 days, we're all about learning, connecting, and reigniting that spark that brought you into the field in the first place. And let me tell you, this conference is packed with goodness. Day one is all about leadership. We've got 5 incredible presenters who will walk you through the business side of running your program. Plus, it's more intimate, a retreat-style day with only 80 administrators, so you'll get tons of face time and an opportunity to connect. And to close out the day, a fun, hilarious comedy show and dinner with Jay Yoder from the Board Teacher Comedy Tour. He graces the stages all over the country. Day 2 is a day full-blown conference with 50 vendors, 14 amazing speakers, plus 2, not 1, but 2 keynote addresses that will leave your head full of fresh ideas. Oh, and did I mention, you can also get a free professional headshot. You can even hop on an ECE podcast and share your expertise with the world. So much fun packed into one day. And then day 3, you get to relax. We're heading over to Urban Sweat, where you can treat yourself however you want. Whether you want to unwind in a Himalayan salt cave, you want to get into a yoga class, or just enjoy a relaxing massage, you will leave totally recharged. You can book your services directly with Rafa and pick exactly what you need. So are you in? Don't miss out 3 days of empowerment, inspiration, and just pure connection with your ECE community. I can't wait to see you there. So let's do this. Links below. See you soon.
And high quality care for children. So we partnered with those organizations in January, and we had a training day for professionals who wanted to learn about advocacy. And then the next day, we went to our capital, which is Richmond, and had meetings with our legislators and our legislators' staff individuals, and just were able to share with them just some nuggets about our state, some of the pitfalls that we're recognizing in childcare. For example, how many just children are on the waiting list for childcare subsidy, these children not being served, they're underserved. So we have this opportunity, and it's such an empowering and uplifting time to be the voice for educators who don't have the time or the availability or the affordability to take off their day to join us in Richmond. I don't remember how many we had, but it was a really large, it was about, I would guess probably around between 20 and 30. And then in just yesterday, fresh off the train, I took a train up to DC where we participated in NAEYC's Public Policy Forum. Yeah. And Virginia had the largest amount of participants. We had about 33 who were there. I think Pennsylvania was second. I don't know what the number was, but it was less than 33. But it was over 400 educators from around the country who came to spend 1.5 days again, getting that training and learning about just advocacy and what it means and what are some of the missions and some of the ways to engage with legislators and lawmakers. And then on Tuesday, so yesterday, we spent the day at the Capitol and the Senate and the House and meeting with the congressmen, meeting with lawmakers and legislators, and just again sort of shared our mission, our advocacy for young children and those programs that benefit families as well. So for example, as you could probably imagine, being that today is February 26th, yesterday's mission was discussing opposing cuts to social programs like Medicaid and Medicare and things that we know our children rely on. And frankly, our educators who we know don't make often very much more than $12 an hour. So that's the most too recent. I'm hot off that because it was such a really powerful day.
was all over my social media feed. I follow many of the AEYCs, and yes, it was all in my feed. Everybody was very, very busy yesterday. Why do you think it's so important for teachers and educators to get involved in advocacy? Because, I think sometimes, just in my experience, when I speak with, teachers who like work in classrooms and they're like, oh, I don't have time, or nobody wants to hear from me. I'm just the infant assistant, right? Because sometimes they think that. So, how do we help them? And what do you think we should do? And how can we do something about that to let them know it's like important?
Well, first, I want to say, just for those who might be listening, we partner also with Northern Virginia's AEYC, and one of their leaders was just an infant teacher. And she always likes to express that to people because she has been able to rise above that station of what people think it should be to what we really are owed. This is a profession, and who better to be the voice of young children and their families than us as educators who see them day in and day out through good and through challenging times. And we are in a great place to also share that information back with families when they don't know. I would say it's important for educators to, I think actually I'm going to flip your question.
Okay.
I want to say that I want educators to recognize that they're already advocates. When they are talking with parents about suggesting your child may not need shoes yet, but in a few months when they're walking good and they're ready to go outside, maybe it's a good time for shoes. Your child might be ready for solids, or might be ready to move off the bottle, or might be ready to move into potty training. Whatever it is that we're doing with our children to help support their growth and development, that's advocacy work. So I would first really just have them look inward and reflect on what are they already doing that we would consider advocacy, because they often don't necessarily see that. I don't know if Kim wants to add to that at all, but I just feel like that's where we need to start.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, no, I am going to just build on that. When I'm talking to educators and working with them and thinking through this process of advocacy that feels so overwhelming, intimidating, because, all educators are like, I'm so much better with children than I am talking to adults, Kim. And so we, again, work through that. But I think it is that baby steps. I think it's about finding the things that you're comfortable doing already and just being able to, if you will, have that, that kind of 1 or 2 line statement that you say why this is important. It be it at the, the library when you're checking out books with your families, as Kristi says, or in any setting, or is it a talent of yours to make, electronic JPEGs that are advocacy statements that you can share. So whatever is a natural kind of baby step for you, I think that also allows us to find our comfort, but also to have that consistency, which is, to me, kind of the backbone of advocacy, right? It's that consistent conversation and being open to all that is early childhood and supporting of families at any time.
Yeah.
And I want to add just a little bit to that, because yesterday on the Hill, these legislators, almost all of them asked, what is your story? Tell us your story. And I think we all have one. We all have an individualized story, regardless of where we've come from, what our background is. We all have a story. And that was a really big ask yesterday on the Hill. What is your story? And we know everybody has one to tell.
Yeah, I was almost going to say something similar to that. I feel like in my time when I would go up to our state house, I feel like the teachers have the most impactful stories, and they're the ones with the boots on the ground that can literally tell a story from like yesterday. And so those are the things I think that really do move the needle. I mean, we of course we need statistics and data and all of that to back it up, but it is those personal stories that they really are looking for. And that has been my experience as well. You talked about, bringing folks together. So talk a little bit more on how you foster collaboration between the early childhood educators amongst themselves, with policymakers, other community partners, and how that strengthens the impact of your work.
Well, I feel like actually that's really like the backbone of the work is having a group collective, one for that diversity as well as the equity and the inclusiveness of everyone has a separate story and a separate perspective, and we don't want to leave anyone out. We want you at the table, right? That was another thing we talked about. If there's no room for you at the table, bring a chair. And we think it's important that we create the spaces for that. So again, we have our public policy group. They try to meet every other month, and they, again, their primary goals are to focus on these advocacy events at the Capitol, whether it's of the state or of the country, but also to have an opportunity to learn about advocacy, about what it is through trainings. At our conference, we have a public policy luncheon where we bring all of our educators together at the conference. They need lunch anyway. And so we have various activities. We've had representatives from our local governments, from our state governments, and then sometimes we have those sort of leaders in our education department to just help our educators recognize that they have a voice they want, and their voices are wanted to be heard, and it's not difficult to do. So just coming and having lunch, and even if your role is to sit and just listen, we know that's making an impact, because maybe that's your first step. And that's okay. We take it whatever works best for you. And sometimes you might realize, I'm glad I got to have lunch here today, but maybe this isn't for me. But at our conference, we offer such a variety of activities and events that people can choose what's comfortable for them. Because we also advertise in our newsletter to bring people together to say, hey, here's what's coming up in the next 2 months. There are links to Zoom meetings. We have Facebook Live opportunities. I'll let Kim talk a little bit more about how we bring some of those people together.
Sure.
We have a lot of opportunities. And some of that is through that professional development where we just bring people together so we can share a common message.
So one of the things that we started doing in the past couple of years that I think has had good results is, as Kristi said, Facebook's Live, sponsored by our PD Circle. And I think the beauty of that is we have these opportunities kind of much like this. They're kind of a Zoom format that we can then just place on our Facebook page for people to come back to at a time that's most convenient to them. I also love it because, sometimes I'm listening the first time and I'm like, oh, I missed that. I want to go back. So it is that place to, again, grab that kind of free recording. At this point, they've been free. And it's also a way to connect those that are in the classroom all the time to others outside of the classroom. So again, really supporting them in their community building, be it with TTAC down the street or infant toddler specialists like Kristi, or others that can help and support them in their daily practices. But it's a way to build community. So I think we try to be very creative around that, as well as much of the work that we are doing within our membership, again, to recruit and retain membership as we're seeing, the change in our workforce and the turnover in our workforce. We want to support our educators at all walks in their professional career. So I think we're just trying to be very flexible in our approach and intentional in our approach to support and offer many and varied ways for people to connect and gather resources that are needed.
Yeah, I think the Facebook Live is brilliant, actually, because that's like meeting people where they're at. Everybody is comfortable on their phone. Everybody goes on their phone at least 12 times a day. And that's probably putting it mildly. But, nobody is really afraid to go on a Facebook at home, sitting on their couch in their pajamas. So you're still able to get that message out in a way when people are relaxed. So their guard is down, where you really might be able to make more of a connection than you would in typical, Zoom, where everybody's staring at you and you got to be engaged, and God forbid your cat walk by, or, any of those things, right? So I think having it on social media is extremely powerful. And I think you guys are right on target there. Let's talk about maybe childcare directors or teachers who might be hesitant or unsure about getting involved. What advice would you give them to take that first step?
I would say at the very least, as I mentioned, we have a newsletter that goes out so they can stay up to date and read about those activities and events that are happening, because our newsletter will have events or maybe bills that are coming down so that they can stay informed, or it might have information about how you can reach out to your own legislator or to your lawmaker if that's something you choose. And of course, again, if there are events, whether it's the Visit to Capitol Steps Lobby Day, or even just the trainings that we have. We have several people who come to the training event before the Lobby Day, but don't take that next step. And that's okay. As Kim said, we take people from wherever they are, and we want them to be comfortable in their participation.
Yeah.
So I would say whatever they felt like was the most comfortable step for them. I had someone yesterday, it was her first time. She was gung ho. She was like, yes, I'm ready. Like, let's do this. I'm like, wow, you're very confident. And she said she was. And then we have those who were like, I've never done this. I'm not sure what to do. And that was me. I was so nervous my very first time several years ago. And then I learned, oh, they're just people.
Mhm.
And some of them were juniors into college. Like, oh, and some of these are little people. And that's great. I mean, it just really helped me, I think, one, not just be more comfortable, but also just put into perspective really that we're all here for very similar causes. And I feel like, we know that childcare and quality of care for children really is a sort of bipartisan, no matter who you are, you 99% of the people probably would agree about the need for high quality experiences and care for young children.
Yeah. I think too, as we look at self-care in our industry right now, what maybe advice do you have for early childhood educators trying to maybe balance their day-to-day responsibilities, involvement with advocacy, also staying on top of their professional development? What are your thoughts around that? Because, when I talk to folks, which I do quite frequently, some of them are really overwhelmed and feel like it's a lot, I mean, for those of us who've been in the field a really long time, things have changed dramatically, even just in the expectations, from regulations, from parents. Like, a lot of things have changed, right? It used to be you had a piece of paper, and at the end of the day, you handed the parent and said, here you go, here's everything that happened today. Now it's like, I haven't seen a picture of my son in the app in 3 hours. I needed more information, right? So, but it's real. We laugh, but the poor teachers in the classroom. So how can we, let's give them some advice of how can we balance these responsibilities so we can feel successful?
You want to start us off, Kim?
Sure, I can try to give some wisdom. I'm not sure I have the best at that because I think, like many of us, we juggle so many things. We have to be careful of it. So I'm really trying to, it's that old wisdom of, no is necessary, and it's a complete sentence, and it's okay to say, like, here's some boundaries around that. But, we want folks to be involved. And so I think my best advice is to try to find the places that you find the most joy. And to continue to stretch yourself, even though it's uncomfortable. I think that's when we really find amazement in our skills and our resources. And then that carries over into the classroom. And then at the end of the day, for me anyway, I can say that helps me kind of work smarter, not harder, by really capturing and utilizing and those moments of joy. So while we want to make sure that we can really take care of ourselves and offer that life balance, I also think that, at least I hope, I can speak for our chapter here in the southwest corner of the New River Valley, that those chapter meetings we try to make really fun and engaging and a time to connect beyond content, so that maybe it does feel a bit like a break or a night out, if you will. So I would say, how can we capture that joy of the reason we entered the profession around working with children, about supporting families, for me is one way that I continue to try to maintain that work-life balance instead of to try to compartmentalize it, but also to be okay to say, for now, this is the baby step I can do, and this is how I can engage. And these are goals that I have for myself around professional development or community building in my professional life.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. I think, one of the first things you mentioned, Kim, I think, was that acknowledging, even in ourselves as leaders, that we're always struggling with that work-life balance, right? And so I think that's really important to acknowledge that in oneself and hold yourself accountable to where you're placing maybe pressure, because I know I do it to myself all the time. So I need to own that before I can even consider making a change or complaining about something, because it's really something I've done or I've caused. But I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm going to recognize that and, just like I said, own it, and then try to figure out where I can maybe restructure a few things. So as Kim mentioned in her chapter and many chapters around the state and at the VAEYC level, we do try so many different ways to acknowledge this. I don't want to call it burnout, but this idea that it can lead to burnout. If your work-life balance isn't balancing out well, we know that it can lead to burnout. And as Kim mentioned, join this field for a reason. We've got to make sure we can stick to that why, so we can keep that balance. But we at VAEYC recognize that is very difficult to do when all these responsibilities are placed upon you, not even just the ones that you put on yourself. Parents wanting pictures. When I was in the classroom, my parents complained because a child who was 2, new to my classroom, and his sleeves were wet. It's like, well, he's never had a sink in the classroom before. And this is if this is your biggest problem, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So just sort of just taking it in stride. Is that a real problem? I mean, I understood what she was saying. We worked so that it didn't happen again,
Sure.
but I didn't lose sleep over he had wet sleeves. He had clean hands also.
Yes. Yeah.
So just kind of knowing that. And I think at VAEYC, like I said, a lot of our chapter events are going to be, I know here in Southeastern, we try to make sure we provide dinner and prizes, as well as some fun along with some content. Social networking is always good so they can talk with each other and recognize, hey, we're all in this together. We're all balancing and struggling at the same time. And at our VAEYC conference, one year we had a Zen den where we had like these chairs where you could lay out, and we had spa music and essential oils. And we really try to help our members recognize that we see them and we see their struggles. We live those struggles too. And so we need that. So at our conference on Friday night, we have actually shifted. It used to be like a training and then a banquet, and it was good. We always had good content, but it felt very formal.
Yeah.
And you sat at a banquet table, your food was plated. It was fancy, which was good. Not a lot of early educators are probably super fancy, and we were missing out on the connections.
Yeah.
And so we've pivoted we've had an art night where we all just sort of did art activities. We've had a night where we go out to restaurants and connect with local leaders as well as just educators connecting with one another. We also have coffee chats and tea time where we have specific topics, maybe public policy, or all directors come together, or professional development providers come and have coffee with us. And then we just talk about what is going on. There's not a super duper structure to it. It's facilitated, but we really let the educators sort of take the lead on what is it they need to sort of let loose or to connect and network with one another.
Yeah, it sounds like tons of great work, ladies. Is there anything that you really want to share with the listening audience that I didn't ask you?
One thing I would like to just sort of brag a little bit about is one of the things that our equity circle has been doing is trying to, again, with that work-life balance, create opportunities for individuals to come together to discuss equity, whether it's through a shared book that they've read. We've had a viewing of a movie before, and we've had field trips where we come on site and we go to experience. We're very lucky here in Virginia. We have a lot of historical places and landmarks to visit. And so again, it's informal and light, but informational and educational as well. And I think just as a whole, VAEYC does we're very intentional about meeting the needs of our educators and our professionals, and also learning where are those gaps, because we know there are gaps. We own that, and we're working hard to intentionally fill those gaps with those individuals, with those voices that we know are not necessarily at the table.
I think we also really do a good job we strive, I should say, to celebrate the work of our educators. So we do that through annual awards at our annual banquet that's coming up here this spring, but also celebration of the programs across the state, and to kind of the point here, showcasing them in a way that's, again, a baby step, a small way that we advocate through a children's art display. So we ask and support and hope that programs from across the state will collaborate with our conference committee in creating a really large, we use throughout the halls of the conference, children's process art display. So that's yet another way that they can share about their program and the value of the work that they do with children. Again, in a comfortable setting. And I think for some people, that's that first step in kind of gaining their confidence in advocacy, is just sharing about their classroom practices with their peers, right? And those that are attending that conference. So a couple other things that I do believe, we do really well and strive to do.
Yeah. You guys have made a couple of references to your conference. When is your upcoming conference?
Great question.
Well,
Our conference is April 3rd through the 5th. And it will be held in Richmond, Virginia, right in our capital. And it's a wonderful city, walkable restaurants and opportunities. And it's a very large space that we have. So we don't have to feel like we're on top of each other. And there's plenty of little spaces for people to meet and network and talk, and lots of room for those who want to go to this session or that session, because it's a free for all. You kind of go to the session that speaks to you, as long as there's room in this session, because some of them do fill up. But thank you for asking. April 3rd through 5th in Richmond, Virginia.
All right. Well, Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And remember, it's the small details that make a big impact on the success of your childcare business. That's all for now. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.
You guys did great. See? Now you can put this under your belt. First podcast. Done.
Well, all the cute little kiddos have been picked up and it's time to go home. And that'll do it for another episode of the Child Care Director's Chair. Please leave a review so Erica knows the information is helping you to manage and improve your childcare centers. Remember to subscribe to get the latest episode from Erica's Child Care Director's Chair.